Hi there. My name is Brad Kenny, and I am an author. I am a mindset coach, and I am a motivational speaker. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to be with me. And I just want to share something with you that is really important to me. And I hope that it ends up being important for you. And the thing that I want to talk about is things that happen in our lives and the stories that we make up about them and about ourselves and how those stories will limit us in life and how we can remove those limitations once we start to take a look at the things that happen from a different perspective. So let me start by asking you, how many of you, by a show of hands, like to be right? Right? I mean, we all like to be right. And do you know what else I love? I actually really love being wrong. And you might think that's a little weird, but allow me. When I realize that I'm wrong, what that gives me is an opportunity to learn. It gives me an opportunity to learn a different way to look at something. It gives me an opportunity to learn and to be able to change my perspective. Now, it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens often enough that it's always a learning process for me. So let's take a look at some of the things that happen in our lives and in the stories that we make up about them, okay? And then later on, I'll talk about some tools that I have for you that can help you free yourself from those limitations. So let's take romantic relationships because that's easy. Everybody has those in their life, and let's just say you're out with friends or you're out at the grocery store or whatever, and you meet someone, and you can see that they're checking you out, you're checking them out. You sum up the courage to go up and speak to them, and you discover that there's definitely an attraction there, right? And so you ask them out, and you go out, you have a great time, you ask them out again, and things seem to be going well. And as things progress, all those voices in your head that were telling you, don't do this because it's all going to go south, it's going to go totally sideways. You put all those voices behind you and you say, no, I'm going to take a chance. And then after a while, something happens, and then boom, you're triggered. You feel betrayed. You feel they've broken trust. And now you've got some choices to make, right? And those choices could be stop talking to them because they're horrible people, or you could wait for them to apologize for the mistake that they made. And then, we all know how that works out because they may not know they made a mistake. Or you could ask them to have a conversation with you. And that takes real courage. Or another choice would be stop seeing them. Just stop seeing them altogether. So let's go back to the having the conversation with them. And the reason why that takes courage is because there's a chance you might learn something about them that you didn't want to know. Maybe they snore at night. Maybe they're too close with their exes. Who knows? Um, the thing that is more than likely going to happen, however, is you're going to learn some things that you need to know about them versus want to know about them. So, getting back to things that happen in our lives, the reason why they put limitations on us is because we make up stories about them. We put labels on them, okay? We tell ourselves that this situation is good, or we tell ourselves that this situation is bad, or we're bad, or we're wrong, or whatever we tell ourselves. And that's not really true, but we've been conditioned and told that we need to put labels on things, whether they're good or bad, right or wrong. And so I want to ask you, just pick an event in your life that happened. And what is the story you made up about that? Maybe somebody cheated on you, or they lied to you, or you got into a car accident, or you went bankrupt, or you got a promotion. It doesn't always have to be bad, it just has to be something significant. What is the story that you made up about that? And were you right or were you wrong? And now again, we're putting labels on that. And that's not right or wrong either. It's just something that we automatically do. So let me give you an example from my own life. Like I grew up with a significant amount of abuse. It was verbal, it was physical, it was emotional, it was mental, and it really did a number on me. And what I did from a very early age is to believe that I was wrong, that somehow I was a burden, that I was some very colorful names that my mother gave to me. And I went through life thinking that I was broken and that I needed to do all these things to get approval from people. And then I would be lovable. And then I would be likable. And then I would be trustworthy. And then I would be worthy. And that's not how life works. We are born worthy. There's nothing that changes that except what people tell us. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from this is you're worthy. Nothing has changed. The moment you were conceived, you were worthy of love, of being accepted. And the only thing that changed is what people told you about yourself. Okay. So, what happens in life is that we're instructed that we need to put labels on things, good or bad, right or wrong. And that comes from a very, very like millennia back to caveman days when we were out with our hunting partners and we needed somebody to be with us so that we wouldn't get eaten or killed by a tiger or a lion. So we had somebody with us to keep watch, and we watched out for them and they watched out for us. And when a stranger approached, our immediate thought is, are they safe or are they dangerous? And we had to make a judgment. And that's just built into our DNA. You cannot get rid of that. That is built into your subconscious, and you will never get rid of that. The best that you can hope for is to be aware of it right away and say, oh crap, I'm putting judgment on this person or this situation. Now that I'm aware of it, I can stop placing judgment on it and start to get onto the truth of what I'm really actually witnessing. Okay. So, as you go through this process of starting to realize that we're conditioned and programmed and taught how to judge and classify things, you can now become aware of how to separate yourself from that process and to create a new process, okay? Life happens for us, not to us. Now, you may have heard that before, and maybe you're like, what are you talking about? Things happen to me all the time. Like for me, growing up, especially as a young adult man, I would have things happen to me, and I'd go, oh my God, why is this happening? Or even better, why is this happening to me again? And it's like, really? I have to go through this all over again? And there's this saying that life will bring you the same lesson over and over again until you learn the lesson. And I did not learn that lesson for a very long time. So I hope another thing that you take away from this is that there is no failure, right? There is no doing it wrong. There is doing something in a way that doesn't get you the result that you want. And it's just like Thomas Edison when he was trying to invent the light bulb, or I should say, when he was inventing the light bulb. The numbers vary, but I think the most consistent number is he tried 999 times before he finally got it. And somebody had asked him, how did you keep going after all those failures? What kept you going? And he basically said, I didn't fail. I just found out a way that it didn't work. And so that's what I hope you take away from this as well is there is no failure. It's either win or learn. And hopefully you've also heard about that saying as well. So how can we transition into life happens to me to life happens for me and to take that mantra of it's either win or learn? Now, it took me it took me a long time to learn um, the real value and the truth of win or learn and life happens for me because I did not believe that for a very long time. And win or learn for me is so significant because if I don't get the result that I want when I'm doing something, what that gives me is an opportunity to look at what was I doing? Was it actually targeted towards getting the result that I wanted? And if it wasn't, why wasn't it? Was I distracted? Was I thinking about something else, which is distracted? But was I not focused on the actual target? Was I not looking at the bullseye? And so, what I want you to take away with this particular part of my talk is when you quote unquote fail, I want you to look at it as a redirection, as an opportunity to take inventory of your method and ask yourself, okay, this didn't work. What is a different way I can approach this situation? And will that way work for me? And don't be attached if it's going to work or not. Just try a different way. Tony Robbins has this really great saying, and he says, if you want to achieve a goal, go after it and try it whatever way. And if that way doesn't work, try it a different way. And if that way doesn't work, try it a different way. And if that way doesn't work, try it a different way. Keep on trying until you find the way that works. Okay. And so while you're doing this, I also want you to make sure and give yourself compassion, grace, patience, forgiveness. All right. Those are some things that you're absolutely going to need to give to yourself. Otherwise, all you're doing is beating yourself up with failure, and nobody responds well to negative feedback as far as you're screwing up, you did it wrong again. Think about how you would support a friend if they were trying something like maybe to run a marathon for the first time or to start their own business. Would you be that person that says, you can do this, what's a different way we can try this? Or would you be that person that says, man, you never should have tried that, I could have told you that you were going to screw it up and fall on your face? I mean, which person would you rather be? Which voice would you rather hear in your head when you are trying to do something different in your life and create change in your life? So I hope this is helping you to discover that there is no failure. The only time you fail is when you stop trying. So, one of the things that's going to happen as you make this transition is you're going to start changing the way that you think. Some people call that mindset. And that's what I do. I'm a mindset coach, and I help people to adopt new ways of thinking to get different results in their lives, the results that maybe they haven't been able to achieve before. So, one thing to help transition you into a new mindset is realizing that when things happen in our lives, we really don't have that much control over them. When things happen, we like to think that we have control. When I drive my car, I like to think that I have absolute control. I mean, do I have control over my vehicle? For the most part, but I don't have control over other drivers. And so I hope that you can start to realize that there's not a lot of control over things that happen in our lives. Like, we can go for a promotion, we can go for a new job, but do we really have control over whether or not we're going to get that promotion or new job, or getting a date with that person, or whatever it is that we're trying to achieve? The best that we can do is hope that we get our results based on our efforts. And I hope that you do. But I hope that you also have this ability to say, I really, really want this. I'm going to work for it. But if I don't get it, I'm still going to be okay. So, what I'm hoping is starting to sink in this short talk is that you understand that, number one, you don't have control over everything. Number two, that putting labels on things really doesn't do you any good. It just limits you in your belief in yourself and your belief about life. And what really helps me in all of this is when I start to go through a situation and I realize that I'm starting to put a judgment on it, like for example, it's really hot right now in this part of the year, and I get really cranky. I get really cranky when it's hot for long periods of time, and so sometimes I confuse being hot and tired with being stressed out. So if I start to realize that I'm feeling a little bit off, I start to ask myself, okay, what am I feeling? And if I understand that I'm feeling something, but I haven't fully identified it yet, I take some time to ask myself, okay, what am I feeling? Where is this coming from? Can I identify it? If I'm able to identify it, then I ask myself, okay, is this my belief? Or was this handed down to me from my parents, from my school teachers, from my friends, from maybe previous bosses? And then I ask myself after that, is this serving me? Is this working for me? Or is this belief system holding me back? Am I prejudiced? Am I having a certain bias against a situation or a certain people or a person? And then I ask myself, okay, if I recognize that I'm having a limited or a limiting belief about somebody, what is a different belief that I can adopt right now? What is a different belief I can adopt about somebody right now? Like, for example, years ago, I was dating, and as I was going into every date, the question I would ask myself is, "Ooh, I wonder when their crazy is going to show up," and it always showed up. Do you know why? Because I was looking for it. And when I started to ask myself, is this working for me? Am I getting the result that I want? And the answer was no. But then I started to ask myself, what is one thing, just one thing I can love about this person? Maybe not even love. What is one thing I can like about this person that I'm going to have a date with tonight? And it changed everything. It changed everything. It changed the experience for me. I'm sure it changed the experience for the people that I was dating. And so I want to hopefully help you to understand that if you have a belief system that isn't working for you, ask yourself, what is a belief system that would work for you? And then start to practice that belief system. And it'll take practice because maybe you've been thinking a certain way for decades, maybe a few years, maybe a few weeks. I don't know. I'm not you. However, I think you'd have a good sense of yourself and how long have you been believing this way, and does this work for you or not? So, things I want you to ask yourself as you're going through situations, um, was this situation in my control? Um, could I have changed the outcome if it was in my control? Would I change the outcome if it was in my control? What would a different outcome be like? How would I feel about that different outcome? So, as I wrap things up for you, I really hope that some of these things have really resonated with you, and it gives you an opportunity to think about how to be different. So, first things, let's recap putting labels on things of right or wrong, of being right, and how important that can be to us when sometimes being wrong can be even more significant in our lives because it gives us an opportunity to learn something different, not only about ourselves, but maybe about people and the world. Um, everything that happens is neutral. There's no good or bad, there's no right or wrong because it all depends on the context, it all depends on the situation, and how those labels that we're putting on things are really limiting us. There's no control over what happens. We can only hope for the best outcome with all of our efforts. It's either win or learn, and getting out of our comfort zone. I didn't really talk a lot about that, but that's definitely something that this will do is will take you out of your comfort zone. And then changing the way that you think. It takes practice. So remember that. Again, give yourself grace, compassion, patience, and forgiveness. Again, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to listen to what I have to say. I'm here for you. If you have any comments, please put them. Please reach out to me through my website and through my social media. And thank you again. And remember, You're stronger than you give yourself credit for. You're capable of making positive change in your life. I'm here for you, and I believe in you.